rehearsing them with no music, so earth in due time could use it for spoken word or whatever service. A movement, the music in Egypt was persecuted. Long ago, faith is bulletproof. When you look around and pray that they don't shoot you to prove it. How did we get here in a dream school? Now when I swim here, God planned it. I'm one of them.
Girls' perspective. But I'm so excited to speak tonight. I've been looking forward to this. I speak to wildlife every once in a while. I've been just dying to speak to you guys because this is the age group that I love. I'm going to share my testimony kind of tonight. And yeah, I'm going to dive right into it though. One thing I wanted to say though, I'm going to be referring to my notes. If I could highlight this all in one sentence, okay, is that there's more to life than just trying to make it through, okay? I grew up, I started going to a Christian school around 4th grade. I went to Borderline Elementary, and then my family decided one day that we were going to start going to church. And the reason behind that was when I was like, I think in like 2nd or 3rd grade, we went to my grandma's house for Christmas. And she brought out a cake with candles, and she was singing happy birthday. And I was like, who the heck's birthday is it? And she's like, oh, it's Jesus' birthday. And I'm like, and I had just found out that the Easter Bunny wasn't real, that Santa wasn't real, and the Tooth Fairy wasn't real. So being 6-year-old me was very adamant that God did not exist. I was like, no, that's a lie. That's not real, or whatever else. And my mom was so embarrassed. She's like, oh, I got to get these kids in church. And she wanted us to know more about God than we did. And there's a lot more that kind of pushed us into church, that made us go into church. But I mean, I don't have enough time to explain all of it. But I kind of like to take credit. I was like, just like this young, like little kid that was like so passionate that God didn't exist. We started going to church, and I loved church because church was a place where I felt really accepted. Okay, they were very quick to point out, because I was a little monster, the things I was doing wrong. But in the same sense, even though they were pointing out like things I was doing wrong, I still felt really loved. And we started going to my pastor's kids' school, which was a Christian school, like 45 minutes way out of town. Okay, so I went to a place, actually Casey went with me. Casey grew up in the same school. And I thought it was going to be amazing. Turns out, it was not. Okay, as soon as I got there, I started getting bullied like hardcore. Okay, and I never run into bullies before. So I'm like, man, this kid's got like some beef with me, and he just has a beef with me because he doesn't really understand who I am. Okay, this kid's name was Chris Smith. Okay, I learned to literally hate this kid. Okay, I wouldn't even say that there was a time in my life, and this may seem dramatic, but I literally thought if I could get away with it, I probably would have killed this kid. I had so much hatred in my heart for him. Okay, but at this point in time, I didn't understand that Chris was scum. Okay, I thought, you know what? I mean, I love him now. We got to actually be good friends his senior, my junior year. But anyways, at the time, I was like, you know what? This kid just doesn't understand me. I'm going to go befriend this dude. It's like PE class is going on. He's got a baseball bat that he's kind of swinging randomly. Because we're waiting to see what we're going to do for PE, and he eventually stops. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go talk to Chris. So I had a basketball, and I'm a 7th grader, and Chris is an 8th grader. And I go, mind you, K through 12th was like 100 students. So it was a very small school, so our PE class was 7th through 12th grade combined, okay, unless you were doing band. All my friends were in band, so I was like the lone 7th grader. So I go and I sit by Chris, I sit down on the basketball, and out of nowhere, I just get freaking smoked right in the side of the face with this metal bat, knocks me right off the basketball mat, drives my tooth through my lip immediately swells to like the size of a, what's those small oranges? Whatever they're called. Yeah, it was huge. Okay, so I was eating straight mac and cheese for a week, and I was bawling, and the PE coach, Gary, comes over and he's like, oh, here, Brett, here's some paper towels, kind of sets me down. If the bleeding stops, it should stop. If it doesn't, we'll get something done. And he just leaves. Luckily, it stopped bleeding. I came in, everyone's like, what happened? And anyways, long story short, next day I come into school, and I don't know why I thought this, like, you would think getting a bat to my head would knock some sense in me, but it didn't. I was like, oh, this guy still doesn't know me. He didn't see me there. I'm a little 7th grader. He's a big dude. So I go over to talk to this kid again, and he's playing basketball with his friends. I suck at basketball. I don't know what possessed me to ask this kid, hey, can I join you guys to do some basketball? So I go over to go ask this kid if I can join him. And as he's like doing this sick like Michael Jordan layup, he's like, get out of here, brother. We're going to give you another fat lip. I was like, at that point in time, I felt it. I was like, these guys are not my friends. They don't want anything to do with me. And then it got worse That was 5th grade, okay? In 6th grade, I thought I was all that because 6th grade and 7th grade were switched, so 6th grade was like the big dogs, and I got really cocky, and I got into 7th grade. And in 7th grade, we're playing basketball again, and they're picking teams, and this mic is driving me crazy. And so they're picking teams, and I'm starting to feel kind of the weight of what these people are saying to me, right? And something was said that day at PE, I don't know what it was, but something possessed me that the basketball I had was I was going to whip it at the senior, or whatever he said. Now this senior is jacked, okay? His name was Zach Yeomans, and I decided, like that's it. Like I literally I snapped and I chucked this ball as hard as I can. I thought it was hard. Literally, it probably traveled at like the speed of smell. And this guy caught it. I'm serious, it was bad. And to my surprise, he caught it, and him and his 6 other buddies decided, hey, let's freaking pulverize the 7th grader into the wall. And they begin to whip these basketballs at me. And fun fact, somehow, these basketballs decided to bounce off and roll right back to them. So it's, oh, round 2! Okay? How many of you guys have had the wind knocked out of you before? I have never had the wind knocked out of me. So it's not, oh, I have the wind knocked out of me. It's like, oh, my rib's broken. I punctured a lung. I cannot breathe. Okay, and then my brother eventually kind of saved the day and clotheslined one guy, and they diverted to him because my brother was a loser too. Okay? So, all right? We were the freaks, okay? I'm not even joking, okay? So, and then Gary, Mr. PE teacher, comes in and be like, what's the matter with Brett? And he's like, what's never wrong with Brett, or whatever else. So they just kind of left me alone, and they're like, Brett, you'll be fine, you just had the wind knocked out of you. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah. And after that, I hated school. Okay? And so, it didn't really get worse or better, it got worse. And so, when I would come home, I would kind of hope to like, have my parents like love me, nurse my wounds or whatever else. I didn't get that. Okay, my mom told me, get out your banana skin and get in your cantaloupe skin. It's like, right, I was like, what the heck does that even mean? She's like, Brett, it means that you have soft skin and you gotta get in your cantaloupe skin and be tough. And I'm like, but at that point, I couldn't. I know, it's weird, isn't it? It was like some like weird pamphlet book thing that my mom got, and she just decided to make that her phrase for me. But, okay, I know, I'm a weird fan, alright? So, but I couldn't. No matter what these people said to me, I let it affect me, and I let it determine on what I was going to be. Okay? Right, so I would go home, and then another thing was, I felt like I could never please my dad. Alright? I love my dad to death now. I have no beef with my dad, so I want to say that before I say this. I would go home with my dad, and my dad would have like certain chores that he gives you to do, like any good dad would do. Okay? And I would kind of half do it, and he would point out all the things that I did wrong, and I got really sick and tired of it. I think there's like this chore that literally took like maybe an hour, is what it should have took. And I literally spent 5 hours on this thing, because I wanted to make it like absolutely perfect. I was like, my dad is not going to find anything wrong with this. And when my dad got home, I didn't say anything. I'm just sitting there, just so full of pride, like, man, he's going to think I'm the man. Right? He says nothing. I'm like, hey, Dad, did you see all the stuff I did? And he kind of looks around, and he's like, supposed to do this every week, dude. And like literally nothing. I got so mad because the security and the significance, I wanted to feel my dad didn't give it to me. So at that point I was like, screw you, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to try to please you now, because to me you're impossible to please. And then I remember one time I would start getting in arguments with my dad. Or one time my dad, he slipped out the word, said that I was worthless, and just started like pounding me for roundabout stuff. But then he took it back. He's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say the word worthless or whatever else. You're not worthless. But when stuff says, even if you mistakenly slips out, it'll still affect you. So I was like, great, my parents think I'm worthless. I got no friends at school. A lot of my friends were in band class, so I didn't really have no backup at PE. But for a lot of times, but still, a lot of my friends, a lot of them started getting the cool crowd. I'm not saying all of them. I'm sure some of them had my back, but I got to a point. Have you ever been to where you're picked on so much that it doesn't matter what people say, you're just like, screw you. Hey, Brett, you're looking nice. No, I'm not. Like that's what I would say. Be like, dude, you just cussed me out yesterday. Now you're saying I'm looking nice. Like, quit trying to, like, I thought he was just like on this teeter, like, way you're good with your bad. So I didn't take any compliments, any insults. I was very quick because I had a lot of hurt in me. So my question was, being within a Christian school, remind you, this is not public school, this is Christian school. Okay? Or at least a Christian school. I thought, okay, if God loves me so much, why did he give me all this pain? Why would he let me go through something like this, okay? All I was wishing for I was basically, in my mind, I was kind of praying for a miracle. I was praying that I would be the popular kid. I would be good at sports. I love soccer. I wasn't really good at soccer. I wanted to be good at soccer. I prayed that I would at least just have a solid friend or whatever. And God didn't answer my prayers, okay? That was what I was wishing for. I was wondering, what are you guys wishing for? Okay? Because I know we all have wishes and things that we would like God to do for us. And I tell you, and another thing is like, and someone asked, I forget who asked me this, or I heard this one time. Someone said this, and I thought it was good. He said, "Do you know the truth of your value?" Because if you don't know the truth, if you don't know your purpose, if you don't know the truth of your value, it's going to be hard to live. Okay? At that point in time, I didn't know my value and I didn't know my purpose, even though I was within a Christian school. Everything that was being taught to me, I didn't care about. Okay, where's Ben? Ben, where are you? We're good? Okay. Ben's keeping track of time for me. So I reached a breaking point, okay? Because I didn't know my value and my purpose, okay? So I was kind of convinced that God didn't exist. I was kind of like, screw you, God, you don't care about me or anything else. Like, I'm just going to go do my own thing. My plan when I graduated was to go as far away from God as I possibly could. I hated my school. I hated my teachers. And to me, being a Christian was going to be like this like little lame thing. Which is funny because, actually I won't go into that. You can ask me later. It's the word is culottes. If you want to know about culottes, tell me later. Lex actually bought a pair. Anyways, they're kind of, I can't go into it right now just because of the sake of time. But anyways, man, I lost my train of thought. Anyways, I know I thought about texting you to ask you to wear them so you could show them off. Okay, yeah, my breaking point. Okay, so fun fact. So I was really depressed. Okay, did you know? I looked this up the other day. Did you know with kids between I think it's younger than 18. Okay, did you know that one in every 5 kids, that means for every group of 5 kids or 5 people under 18, there was one kid who seriously thought about taking his own life. Okay? I don't mean like it's on the back burner. I mean like he's literally processed how he's going to do it, but he just lacks the courage to take it out. Okay? What about this? Did you know that one in every 10 kids has actually tried to commit suicide but somehow failed? Okay, I don't need to take that out. Okay, but literally went through it, tried it, did not work. Okay? I wasn't one of those 1 in 10, but I was one of those 1 in 5. Alright? I thought through how I was going to kill myself. I was done. I didn't want to live anymore because to me, I was like, well, if God is real, I'll figure it out and I'll be able to argue with him up there. It was basically what my thought was. Stupid, but that was my thought. But what stopped me was, well, for one, I didn't have the courage, praise God, to take that out. And then 2, thinking about my parents, because even though my parents were hard on me at times, I did know that they loved me. And just the thought of them and what they would go through if I did that was just, I couldn't bear it. So I remember crying and breaking down and asking God, like, Lord, if you're real, you got to show me you're real, because I see a lot of fakes and I don't believe that you're real at all. And I prayed this. And 2 weeks later, a kid named Corey, this dude was jacked, man. This guy, he was a grade older than me, but he was ripped. And I came to find out the reason he was ripped because he got picked on a lot like me, but his way to deal for it for the longest time was just to work out and beat up the guys that were beating him up. And he was good, he could do it, okay? But he still got ridiculed a little bit, and I would jump on the wagon sometimes and ridicule him sometimes too. But he saw through that. He loved me where I was at. He's like, hey Brett, man, we got to be close buds, and he's like, hey man, why don't you come to camp with me, okay? It wasn't Young Life, it was another camp called Lake Ann. He's like, hey, why don't you come to camp with me, dude? And I was like, I don't know, and I'm looking at it, and it's got like this Acorn Acres like petting zoo thing, and I'm just like, what the heck? He's like, oh, that's not for us. And I was like, okay, this is looking kind of weird. People at like school are like making fun of me. He's like, oh, you're gonna go to camp with Corey? I'm like, yeah, man, I am. What's it to you? And so I went, and I go there, and even though I grew up in church, it was unlike anything I've ever seen, man. I mean, I'm seeing people like worshiping with their hands up in the air, and I know some of you that go to church see that's a norm. I went to a church where it was just like straight traditional hymns, like just piano, just as boring as crap, okay? I'll be real with that. I love my church, but the worship was boring as crap. And I see these dudes just freaking bawling their eyes out like these captain of football teams do, just bawling their eyes out. I'm like, what in the world? What is all this? And so I'm kind of, even though I grew up in a church background, I'm still kind of freaked out. I'm like, oh man, I hope I'm not going to jump on a bandwagon with a bunch of emotions and everything else, because I didn't want it to be that. I wanted it to be real. And then the guy, Ken Rudolph, he was a speaker. I love that man to death, and I actually got to know him really well. And one day he told me, he looks at me like I'm one of his sons, and I about broke out bawling. But he shared this verse, okay, and this is the verse that honestly was the thing that kind of cracked down my walls. It may for you, it may not. But it's Romans 8, 31 and 32. It says, when then shall we say these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us, how will he not with him graciously give us all things? Okay? So basically what that verse means is literally God as your enemy gave you everything. Okay? Like we all understand, because I was told, Jesus loves you so much, you'll never understand it, just know that he loves you. Okay, that's very bland and tasteless. Okay, that really meant nothing to me. I heard that my whole life. Okay? But the idea that God literally gave his son for me to pay for everything I'm going to do, well, I'm considered his enemy. Someone that's like literally spitting him in the face, like cussing him out, like saying, like if Russell was saying, I don't need you, I don't want anything to do with you, just slap across the face maybe, just totally disrespectful. Okay, worse than that, enemy, because I think I may be playing it down because it is enemy, died for you. And so the thing is, if he died for you when you considered his enemy, when you accept him in your heart, and you ask for that forgiveness of sins, how much more do you think he's going to help you now? Like, why would he not graciously give you all things? The most rhetorical question that was mentioned. And then another verse that he had shared was this one. It's Romans 8, 38, 39, it says, for I am sure that neither life nor angels, nor rulers, nor things to come, nor powers, nor heights, nor depth, nor anything else in all of creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. Okay? So literally there is nothing, if you believe this is true, to me, this is true. To me, this is everything. Okay? And God says that there is nothing that will be able to separate you from his love. Okay? Being a child of God, believing in him, and everything else, okay? Nothing will separate you from that, okay? And I believe that, but see, the thing is, I want to refer to my notes, make sure I'm staying on track, that there's a lot of things we can be separated from, not necessarily God, but from our pleasures, okay? Someone told me this quote one time, okay? It says, if you put your happiness in temporary things, your happiness will be temporary, okay? That means if you're putting your relationship in a boyfriend or girlfriend, which I'm not saying it's wrong to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. I'm not opposed to that at all. Okay? But if literally everything that you hope and dream about is in this guy, okay? First off, let's be real. And I don't want to put any insecurities in you guys, but relationships can last and they cannot last, okay? Sometimes there is a thing called breakups, okay? And even, let's say it does go to marriage. One day, your wife or spouse may leave you. And I mean through death or divorce. My grandma, I just lost my grandpa. Oh, wrap it up? Okay. I just lost my grandpa about 8 months ago. Okay? My grandma was devastated. I've never seen my grandma so upset in my life, and it took her quite a while to get over it. Okay? Because I love my grandma to death, but she did put a lot of hope into that man, and I love my grandpa to death. But because of that, and of course, it's because she loves him. I don't know, I think I'm going to be reading too much into that example. Anyways, we're going to go on. Okay, another couple things that we all know. A lot of people go to drugs, okay, or alcohol or sex, okay. All those are fleeting. You get drunk, you're going to wake up with the same problems. Okay, if you get high, once you come off, same problems are still there. Okay, Alexa can attest to that because that's a huge part of her testimony. Okay. Okay, and all of us, we have this peace in our soul that we're looking for. I'm going through my notes way too much right now. And what gives me peace, I'm going to wrap it up with this real quick. What gives me peace is knowing who I am, okay? I know through what I read in this book that there is a love for me that is an unflinching love. There is nothing I could ever say to God that would make him go, ooh, okay? It's just steadfast love. I love you no matter what, okay? I prayed for a miracle, okay? I didn't get one, okay? Am I sad? No, okay? I'm actually quite glad God didn't answer that prayer. Why? Because I like suffering. I think it makes me more holy? No, okay? because I was able to go through a rough patch in life that I've been able to relate to with a lot of kids. I'll give you 3 kids and then I'm going to close, okay? First kid, his name is Leo. Some of you guys may know this guy. Okay, I love this kid to death. This kid was born a crack baby. Okay, so he's like 25, but he has the mentality of someone who's 10. Alright? This kid grew up with, he had like the same childhood friends growing up, okay, and eventually a lot of his friends went to drugs and alcohol. Leo gets a certain amount of money from the state each month. I think it's like maybe roughly $300 or something. Leo used to get in trouble with the law, okay? When he found Jesus, a lot of his friends would threaten to call the cops on him if they didn't give him money. Okay, Leo having that mental disability, okay, or mental handicap, he didn't know what that meant, so he would give these kids money so that they could pay for their drugs, okay? But he grew up with these kids. These kids were his best friends growing up, so for him, the attachment to these kids was heartbreaking. And I was able to walk with Leo and talk with him about that. Leo loves Jesus with all his heart and soul. He wants to be a culinary arts major, okay? This kid, you could not steer this kid off the path that he has right now. He is so driven, and he loves God so much. Another kid, his name was Mark. Okay, Mark, I had up at a camp that I counseled at, right? Mark came to camp. This kid only knew me 3 days. This camp, how it worked, it wasn't like Young Life where we go up with you guys. Basically, a bunch of kids come, they have a counselor they've never met before, and you're with him for the entire week, okay? Mark had never met me before. In 3 days, somehow, through my story and being able to work with this kid and just love on him where he's at, he told me a deep, dark secret he had never told anyone. I'm not going to share it with you. But it was something that literally tore him from the inside. He had major counseling for. No one could ever get it out of him. No one could ever really figure out what was going on with Mark. And he just threw it up all on me in one night. Okay, that's not to be like, oh, look at Brett, because I was freaked out when he did. But this kid, after he got that all on his chest and he trusted God and everything else, that he did love him, he has a plan, you cannot wipe a smile off this kid's face. And this kid used to be one of the most depressed kids I ever saw. Okay? And then last kid, his name was Mike. And I want to be careful how I say this because I don't want to take any offense to anyone. But Mike had bipolar, and I'm not against bipolar. I mean, I have ADHD, I have ADD. To me, they're almost the same thing. Okay, but Mike had severe bipolar, okay, to where he was very heavily medicated. And he got picked on a lot in his life for it. And I remember talking to Mike one day, and he was crying. And I said, Mike, what's the matter? I'm like, and we talked about God a little bit, and I'm like, do you believe God is real? And he said, no, not really. And I said, why? He said, because if God is real, why would he make me like this? All my friends look at me and they think I'm a freak. I can't get any friends. I feel like I'm the biggest screw up in the world. And so I'm like, so you bought into the lies what these people are telling you. I said, you honestly think you're junk. Okay, I put it on my Facebook earlier today. I want to tell you guys this right now, because coming from a guy who struggled with insecurity his whole life and still does, okay, I still do. There are times when people can say hurtful things for me and I just kind of want to go back in a hole and die. Sometimes, certain days, okay? I told Mike, I said, dude, God does not make junk, okay? No one sitting here is junk. I don't care what you're going through. I don't care what eating disorder, or we'll say eating disorder. I don't care if you have a broken home. I don't care what you're going through, okay? You're not junk. Okay, and I'm not here to compare my pain with you, but I do know what it feels like to be alone. And I do know what it feels like to have a broken heart. Okay? I'm here to tell you guys that God can heal that. He did that in my life. It's more of a testimonial thing. But I guess if there's one thing I want you guys to take this away from this, is that look around you, okay? We have leaders here. Okay? We have Alexa, we have Cassie, we have Kyle, we have Beth. Okay? We're not here as some volunteer job. We're here because we honestly love kids, okay? And we've probably been at low points in our life and we wanted someone at that point in time. At least me personally, I would have killed to have Young Life back when I was younger, okay? Just to have someone walk with me, okay? These leaders, they love you, okay? And I hope you can feel that from other people that are here in Young Life, okay? We want to walk with you not just with God, but even other life things, okay? And that's really it, because I'm probably gone way over. But I just want to say this, man, I do love you guys, okay, every one of you, even those of you that I don't know well, man. I want you to know that I do have your back, and not just me, but other leaders do. And we want to see you excel. We want to see you be the best that you can be at whatever you decide to set your mind to. We want to help you do that, okay? And ultimately, me personally, I would love to see every one of you guys put your trust in God and come to know Him, or at least, I don't know, ask more questions about Him. That's fine. That's not something we force on you. I'm not trying to force it on you. But I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna pray with you guys.
At the same luggage, name tags and all. Even signal for the same sky cap on call. Fast forward 40 years through peace and arguments. They still hold hands on that old park bench. Serenade. The kids twice. Kids playing. For giving them life and abundance of blessings. And for that little mix up at carousel number 7 like.
It's so beautiful, baby, when you find it.
Work it out.
You better cherish it. Yeah, love. It's so beautiful, baby, when you find it. You better cherish it. Yeah.
Two-stepper drop right here, watch.